All right, boys and girls, we're coming to you from Assembly Hall after a pretty thorough dismantling by IU of Ball State. Final score was 101 to 53. So, for the first time this season, IU did hit the triple digits, the elusive 100-point mark.
Free burritos.
And what that means is free burritos.
The first time of the year.
That's probably the big takeaway from today. Am I correct? Joining me, as always, are Nathan Brown and Mike Norman over there. Not that much to say, to be quite frank. This was a blowout. It was a little bit of a shaky start, but certainly not the shakiest we've had, not compared to Georgia or anything like that. And IU figured it out quickly and went on just some monstrous runs. It was 50-19 at the half, and that basically tells you right there, IU put in backups for most of the second half.
Yeah,
and
started,
so got a little closer.
I think it was like, they were up 10-8, something like that, which has been fairly common for them during the first couple of games this season. They get out, even against these, cupcake teams, if you want to call them that. They get out to a 1-point lead, a 2-point lead, get behind a point or two, and then like all the other games, they stormed out on a huge run, ending the half on a 40-11 streak, and Ball State really never had a chance in this one.
The guy really leading the charge in those streaks was Will Sheehy, hitting a number of mid-range jumpers just to really get IU going. Once he started to take off in this game, IU began to play a lot better, and that's something that we haven't really seen thus far this season. If there was one guy out there that has had a bit of a shaky start, it was Will Sheehy, and I'm sure Coach Crean has enjoyed what he saw from Sheehy, especially out there today, scoring 19 points on 8 of 9 shooting.
Except there was that one moment that Crean quite obviously did not enjoy what he was seeing from Will Sheehy. He thought he was showboating a little bit, and I'm trying to think of a polite way to say this, but he was not happy with it. We'll leave it at that.
No, he wouldn't. After the game, I know Sheehy was a little upset about that. He wouldn't answer the question about what Crean actually told him. But it was a good night for Sheehy. He struggled a little bit in Brooklyn. I think he scored only 8 points in the 2 games, scoring 6 against Georgia and just 2 against Georgetown. So struggled a little bit. And associate head coach Tim Buckley said that Sheehy got back into town this past week and spent a lot of time in the gym, and you could really tell his mid-range jumper was a lot better. He was really, really efficient from the floor, going 8 for 9 on
very
field goals.
aggressive too.
Yeah,
and that was probably the biggest.
Even when he had, I agree, he's been struggling to an extent early on, but I think the thing that you most count on Will Sheehy for, and he has brought this whole season, is I think he is the team's true energy guy. I mean, he is the one more than ever that you see streaking down the court on a fast break, finishing it with a dunk every time, and not just a dunk, but a dunk where he will spin his body 180 degrees around, hanging on the rim. I mean, that's what fires up the crowd, and that's what he's been doing, and he was still doing that, and now he's starting to add this season for the first time that the jumper and whatnot, and a little more fundamental ball.
Certainly, Will Sheehy will be a big part moving forward for the Hoosiers, especially in this matchup coming up next with North Carolina.
That's a big one.
It's the big one. It is the one that has been scheduled on the calendars for most Hoosier fans. Obviously, a part of the ACC Big Ten Challenge. It's going to be a good one, and for IU to be successful in this game, as we said, Sheehy's going to have to be a big part of that. That 6-man coming off the bench is very crucial in games like that.
I think at times, it seems like when he plays well, it's because he has that energy, he has that passion. Those couple games when he struggled back in Brooklyn, or the first couple of games here this season, minus the one where he did actually end up starting. I know he played pretty well. Can't remember how many points he had, but it just seems like when he has that fire in him, he can go off and easily hit double figures, possibly hit 20 points or even above. I think those, we're yet to see the best of Will Sheehy this season, and I'd be surprised if he didn't have a game or two where he eclipsed 20-25 points.
Yeah, I think that's to be expected. Briefly, I think we should touch on the second leading scorer tonight was Jordan Hulls, who has just been on fire recently.
17 points in the game for Hulls tonight. 7 of 10 shooting, 3 of 6 from downtown. That stroke is just working.
Exactly. And what I remember, I mean, the thing that stuck out to me early on, or fairly early on in this game, in the first half, and hint, hint, this is what I did a story on for Monday's paper on, so I encourage everyone to check that out. But the gist of it is Halls did not take a shot until there was 5:35 left in the first half. Didn't even take a shot. Certainly hadn't made a shot. He entered then halftime as the team's leading scorer with 12 points. He went 5 for 5 in the last 5.5 minutes of the first half. And that was sort of the moment where it went from big lead to ridiculous. And I really think Hulls was the key to that.
Hulls has been that big spark, not just on the offensive side, but also defensively. I think he's taken about 3 or 4 charges so far in the last 3 games. So, it does start with Hulls, and he's the man controlling the ball. He said that, obviously, he didn't want to force anything, didn't want to take shots that weren't in the rhythm of the game. But once he gets going and finds that rhythm, he's hard to stop.
And I'll tell you, a big surprise this season, and you touched on this briefly, is his defense, because I think almost at least 4 or 5 of the 6 games so far, he's been undersized compared to the guy he's defending. And that was the case tonight, and he's accepted that. Yeah, Big Ten is not going to change that for sure. And yet his defense really has shown some improvement in being able to guard bigger guys tonight. And I'll tell you, I mean, Ball State, probably not a great team. Certainly not, you wouldn't think so from the score. But I definitely noticed from the get-go tonight, they look like a different sort of team. They're a lot bigger, a lot bulkier, and I think that's a really good kind of player for IU to have to see before we get to the Big Ten schedule and even before North Carolina.
Yeah, I think in these opening games they played some faster teams and who maybe weren't quite as big and have seemed to handle that pretty well. And tonight they played a Ball State team that was definitely a lot bigger than them, at least right now, with 3 of their big guys out with an injury and 2 guys out with the NCAA sanctions and stuff like that. But there
are at least 2 players on Ball State heavier than anyone on IU, and I think that's something that's worth noting.
And I think, not necessarily what they're looking for is to, win by 48 points, but to get that experience in the half court playing against those bigger guys. Obviously, they're going to beat them down the floor, and they're going to get a lot of breakaways against a team like Ball State. But if they get them in the half court, I think this is a good team to get some experience against some bigger guys this early in the season.
Well, guys, that will do it for us from Assembly Hall
I think so.
tonight.
As we said, not that much. I mean, this was a blowout from the get-go, or at least from about 4 minutes in.
But we are very excited to be joining you from here, same place, Tuesday night against North Carolina. If you don't have tickets to the game, make sure to get out, watch a game at a local restaurant establishment, or just
more importantly, follow along. We'll be live tweeting the heck out of it, so please follow along on that.
You can check us out on Twitter. You can check out the IDS Sports Twitter account for all your latest Hoosier basketball news. But for Nathan Brown, Max McCombs, I'm Michael Norman. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you Tuesday night.
Take care.
Catch you later.